Welcome to the Aftermath of Sexual Trauma. I'm Shantae Dent. Today in episode 4, we're talking about dignity and self-worth. Now, these areas hit hard. They have the potential to hit hard. And as I always say, I speak, for myself. And these were two areas that I struggled with a great deal. So let's talk dignity. Dignity, a state or a quality of being worthy of honor or respect. And so when you think about the experiences of being violated, when you think about being traumatized sexually, immediately for many of us, our dignity is affected. We make this connection that we are not being respected. Number one, as a human being, we're not being respected, depending on the details of your situation. If you are, resisting this act, your words or your actions are not being respected. And that can weigh heavily on an individual. Mentally and emotionally, you feel, or you can feel like you're weak. And again, speaking for myself, that's how I felt. I felt that my dignity had been taken away from me, that, what I said or what I did wasn't being respected. And that began to play on my emotions. I'm not being heard. Well, then maybe I'm not important. And I've mentioned before, I felt as if, life was over. I am damaged. I'm no good. And unfortunately, we can sometimes allow the selfish, violent act of another individual define our sense of self-worth. And that's a trap. It's a lie, because when an individual chooses to bring harm on you, when an individual chooses to violate you in any way, shape, or form, sexually, they are making that decision, and that's their issue and their problem. But unfortunately, because this act was directly toward us, we take on that person's problem, we take on that person's issue, and immediately we can begin to experience, low self-esteem, or again, just feeling like we no longer have self-worth. I reflect on my experience, and again, my situation made me feel as if, especially when I reflect on my childhood experiences, I felt as if I was not a person of value. I felt like if an individual who, is older than me, someone who I should trust and respect, and, someone who should essentially be on the lookout for me, if that individual chose to treat me in such a degrading manner, then maybe I'm not worth it. Maybe I am no good. And again, their actions shaped my perception of myself. And that took a toll on me for years. Sadly, it took me, as far as I'm concerned, too long to connect the dots. But at the end of the day, I'm grateful that I finally did. But it damaged my self-esteem. It clearly had an effect on my self-esteem, my self-worth, and it caused me in more ways than one to be a people pleaser. And if you know anything about people pleasing tendencies, they lead you to making unhealthy decisions. And then it comes again to our self-worth. I'm convinced now, and in my older age, that the person who has, high self-esteem, or they know their value and they know their worth, they're in so many ways, untouchable. But unfortunately, for individuals who've been damaged by various forms of sexual trauma, self-worth is an area that is affected. Self-worth, and a lot of times, as I mentioned earlier, it can cause you to feel like I'm a damaged good. It must be something wrong with me. For that person to choose to do what they did to me, there has got to be something wrong with me. I must be defected. And those are thoughts that we internalize, and sometimes they become our belief system. which again plays out in relationships. It plays out in your role at work. It plays out in your role as a student, as a parent, and nothing good comes out of it. It's very unhealthy. And so if you are in this space where you are struggling in this area of dignity and self-worth, I want to remind you that your value and your worth, it has nothing to do with what that individual did to you. You are still an amazing individual. You are still you're made in the image of God. No one can take that away from you. If you've heard this analogy before, I'll run it by you again. Or maybe you're hearing it for the first time, and this is the short version of it. If you see a $100 bill on the sidewalk, and about 75 cars have already driven over that $100 bill. It rained, it snowed, a lot of different components, and that $100 bill may have been through some things. Somebody crumbled it up and, just didn't take good care of it as they should. Well, what many of us know is if you're walking down the street and you see that $100 bill that has been through some things, what we know is you can still pick up that $100 bill and make a purchase, or take it to the bank and make a deposit into your account, because the $100 bill may have some wrinkles and crinkles and been through some things, but the value of the $100 bill remains. And that is the point I would like to reiterate to you. You may have experienced unfortunate situations, and yet your value remains. I have said before, there are some individuals who look at my life and they hear my story and they are in awe of how things have transformed. And again, my transformation comes from the decisions that I've made. My transformation also had to include me getting to this point to realize that even though I have experienced heartache and pain and sexual assault and just a lot of inappropriate experiences, I am still a woman of worth, high value. I am created in the image of God. I am the apple of His eye. And I had to remind myself of my worth in spite of what happened to me. Remind myself that life is still worth living. I'm still worthy of having an amazing marriage, a great career, whatever it is that my heart desires. I'm still worth having that. I'm still worth doing and being all those magnificent and amazing things because I'm still Shantae. And that experience or that person will not and cannot take those attributions away from me unless I allow them to. So again, if you're in this state where you're feeling probably like you're in a dark room and there's no light in this room, you may feel like every dream, every aspiration of yours has died. You may look in the mirror and see no sense of beauty. And this is for a man or a woman. No sense of beauty, no sense of worth. And I want you to know that you and only you has the ability to make a change. You can have 1,000 people compliment you and tell you how amazing and handsome and gorgeous and smart and intelligent you are. But until you believe it for yourself, you're not going to experience that change or that freedom. There's an exercise that I implemented personally and I begin to share it with others. I call it A through Z, all about me. I may have mentioned this before, but I love it. I love it so much. And I still practice this exercise. It's so simple. A through Z, all about me. For each letter of the alphabet, go ahead and write down a word or a phrase, a short statement that focuses on the positive attributes of who you are. Even if you're not feeling this way at this time, I still want you to write them down. Your words may be as simple as A for amazing, B for beautiful, C for caring, or you can be more elaborate in your descriptions. Whatever you write down, you make it positive. Now, and don't just think it. I want you to write it. And for the next 30 days, take out that piece of paper Every morning, read it out loud in the mirror. Every evening, read those words, read those phrases out loud in the mirror. You look at yourself in the eyes and you speak those words of positivity into your heart, into your mind, into your spirit. And if you have to cry while you're saying it, go ahead and cry. If you need to laugh while you're speaking these words, these affirmations, go ahead and laugh. But I strongly believe, I firmly believe it because it's worked for me, that you will experience an amazing and a beautiful transformation if you stay the course and begin to feed into yourself, into your life, and speak those words of affirmations, those words of love, the positive words to retrain your brain and tell yourself, talk to yourself. I say it all the time. It's so important. Talk to yourself and remind yourself of how amazing you are. Remind yourself that even though you've gone through various experiences, those experiences, they don't change your value. They don't change your worth. It feels like it. That's the truth. It feels like it. And that's a lie. And so combat that lie by reestablishing who you are. A to Z, all about me. That's your challenge. That's your assignment. I look forward to connecting with you all on our next episode. Hang in there. And remember, you're worth it and you're valuable. And the experiences that you've gone through, they do not wipe away how phenomenal you are.